This video will focus on the ETPIS case's decision-making model to be explained to learners before they begin their work on the case. The ETPIS cases use a four-step decision-making model that includes identifying a fundamental school issue, determining principles to guide the decision-making, suggesting alternative solutions, and selecting the best alternative and creating a plan of action. An important fifth step, to evaluate the effectiveness of the decision and determine principles or criteria to add, drop, or reprioritize, is not addressed by this case assignment. Step 1 focuses on identifying a fundamental school issue which needs to be addressed by the leadership team. In this step, participants consider the many possible explanations of what is happening in the school based on the instructor-selected topic that frames the case experience. Learners are encouraged to determine the amount and nature of information needed to identify the underlying problem. They are asked to identify their desired goals for the school that define the scope and scale of the decisions to make. The goals should align with the primary issue they identify. Also in this step, learners identify what additional information is needed and which other stakeholders should be involved in the decision-making process. Step 2 prompts participants to consider the principles that will guide the decision-making process. Participants should ask these questions. What professional or declarative knowledge informs my thinking about this issue? How do the school's goals and its mission serve as criteria that guide the decisions I'm to make? Which leadership values, beliefs, and dispositions influence my thinking? Step 3 asks participants to formulate two different alternatives that would address the primary issue identified in Step 1. Along with developing two alternatives, learners describe the enablers and constraints associated with each of their two proposed solutions. Learners analyze their alternatives using the guiding principles identified in Step 2 and the goals and stakeholders identified in Step 1. This step encourages learners to think of new and creative ideas that might address the primary issue. Step 4 asks participants to select the best alternative and develop a specific and strategic plan of action based on the alternative from Step 3 that they believe best addresses the primary issue. The plan of action also should align with the facts of the case and the guiding principles criteria outlined in Step 2. To scaffold learners writing a plan of action, Step 4 is broken down into three key practices of leadership: setting direction, developing people, and making the organization work. Objectives and strategies need to be considered in short and long-term action plans while anticipating the implications of the decision for all stakeholders. Learners are prompted to consider how they will set direction to address this primary issue and how they create shared meaning about that direction with their stakeholders. They are also asked to identify the data that they will need to collect and monitor in order to keep their leadership team on track. Learners are asked how they will develop people's capacity to move in the direction that was set. Specifically, learners will need to develop a list of opportunities that will help their stakeholders learn, grow, and reflect while enacting this plan. For the section on making the organization work, learners are asked to consider what elements are necessary to enable the school to function as an organization that supports and sustains stakeholders' work. For example, what norms and values, organizational structures, or collaborative processes are necessary to help stakeholders move forward to address the issue under consideration? As participants work through the case experiences and discuss their ideas, they will develop a rich mix of analytic and operational strategies applicable to a variety of issues in multiple settings. The ETPIS case experience helps them build a repertoire of possible strategies to have at their fingertips when they're immersed in an actual school setting.